There is something most people never realize about money. It is not controlled by effort, it is not controlled by intelligence, and it is not controlled by luck. Two people can work equally hard. One feels supported by life. The other feels constantly behind, and the reason is invisible. It lives beneath awareness. In this video, you will learn how that hidden system works and how it quietly decides who struggles and who prospers. Stay with me. What you are about to hear changes the way wealth is created. Part 1. The invisible system that decides wealth. There is a reason money seems distant for some people, no matter how intelligent they are, no matter how hard they work, no matter how disciplined they try to be. And the reason is rarely visible. It does not appear on a resume. It does not show up in effort. It does not respond to motivation. It operates quietly, below awareness. Most people never question it, yet it decides who feels supported by life and who feels as if they are always catching up. The strange part is this: the harder some people chase money, the more resistance they feel, while others move calmly, almost effortlessly, and resources seem to find them. This difference is not luck, it is not privilege, and it is not fate. It is an internal system, running silently in the background. A system that decides what feels allowed and what feels unsafe. That system is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious does not respond to words. It responds to familiarity. It does not calculate possibility. It enforces identity. If something fits your internal identity, it is allowed to remain. If it contradicts that identity, it is gently or forcefully removed. This is why effort alone never guarantees wealth. Effort can open doors, but identity decides whether you walk through them. Many people believe money is something you pursue, something you must hunt, capture, and defend. So they live in tension. They wake up already braced for struggle. They associate money with pressure, deadlines, fear, and responsibility over time. Their nervous system learns something. Money equals stress. And once that association is made, the subconscious begins to protect you by limiting exposure, not because it wants you to fail, but because it wants you to feel safe. This is why opportunities sometimes appear and then vanish, why progress begins and then stalls, why money comes and leaves just as quickly. The subconscious is not cruel, it is conservative. It preserves the familiar. Now consider this. Two people can work the same hours with the same skills in the same industry. One feels constantly unstable, the other feels supported. The difference is not their effort, it is their internal expectation. Expectation is not optimism, it is the quiet assumption of how life usually treats you. Your subconscious asks one question: what normally happens to someone like you? If your history taught you that effort leads to exhaustion, the subconscious repeats that pattern. If your history taught you that solutions appear when you stay calm, the subconscious recreates that reality. This is why wealth is not created. At the level of action, it is stabilized. At the level of expectation. Expectation shapes your posture, your tone, your timing. People respond to this unconsciously. Confidence does not come from believing everything will work. It comes from trusting that you can recover. People with wealth, consciousness, do not assume constant success. They assume resilience. They trust their ability to adapt, to generate ideas, to respond intelligently. That trust changes everything. They negotiate differently. They wait when others rush. They move when others freeze. They are not frantic because their subconscious does not feel cornered. Most people live without invisible support. They rely entirely on what they can see: a job, a contract, a paycheck. When any of these are threatened, their sense of safety collapses. But people who understand the subconscious build an internal reserve. They trust their thinking. Under pressure, they trust their creativity. In uncertainty, they trust their capacity to rebuild. This trust becomes an invisible safety net. And paradoxically, that inner safety allows them to take better risks. This is why wealth often follows calm people. Calm signals safety. Safety allows expansion. Now here is something crucial. Your subconscious does not respond to declarations. It responds to emotional tone. If you say, "I want more money," while feeling tense, the subconscious records tension, not desire. It learns that money equals danger, and it adjusts accordingly. This is why affirmations fail for many people. Not because words lack power, but because the emotional signal contradicts them. Your subconscious always believes the feeling, never the slogan. This is why neutral language works better than forced positivity. Calm statements that do not provoke inner argument teach the subconscious something new. They introduce familiarity without threat. Wealth that stays feels normal. Wealth that feels shocking feels unsafe. And what feels unsafe is not retained. This explains a hidden truth. Sudden money without identity alignment creates anxiety, and anxiety seeks resolution. Often by eliminating the source, wealth consciousness is not excitement. It is steadiness. It is the quiet sense that support is available, that solutions exist, that loss is survivable. When you trust recovery, you stop fearing loss. And when you stop fearing loss, you stop blocking gain. This is the foundation. Not strategies, not hustle, not sacrifice, but alignment. Alignment between desire and identity. Alignment between effort and expectation. Alignment between money and safety. This alignment does not require force, it requires awareness. Notice what happens in your body when you imagine financial ease. Does your breath soften or tighten? That response is the truth, not your words, and the good news is this. Your subconscious is adaptable. It learns through repetition, through imagery, through emotional consistency. You do not need to convince it. You need to introduce a new normal. Slowly, gently, repeatedly. This is not about chasing wealth, it is about allowing it. And allowance begins with safety. If this perspective feels different, if it feels calmer, more grounded, subscribe to this channel. This work goes deeper than motivation. In the next part, we explore how inner conflict forms around money and how to dissolve it without forcing belief. This is where alignment begins, and alignment is where wealth accelerates. Stay with me. Part 2. When your mind agrees, money moves. Most people believe they lack money, but what they truly lack is internal agreement. They want wealth consciously, but unconsciously, they resist it, and resistance always wins. Not because it is stronger, but because it is quieter. Your subconscious mind does not argue, it simply enforces. It enforces what feels familiar and rejects what feels disruptive. Even when that disruption promises freedom. Think of an airport runway. A plane does not land because it wants to. It lands because the lights are aligned, the signals are clear, and the ground is ready. If the lights flicker or contradict each other, the plane circles or lands somewhere else. Your subconscious mind is that runway. Your conscious desire is the plane. Most people keep calling for wealth, but their inner signals say, not here, not now, not safe. This is not failure, this is misalignment. You say you want abundance, but part of you associates money with pressure. You say you want success, but part of you fears being seen, being judged, or being responsible. So the subconscious protects you by delaying, by distracting, by creating hesitation. This protection is automatic. It is not moral, it is biological. Here's a psychological fact. Most people never learn. The brain always prioritizes safety over success, every time. If success feels unsafe, it will be avoided, even if it promises comfort, even if it promises freedom. This is why people sabotage progress. Just before a breakthrough, they procrastinate, they doubt, they second guess, they feel strangely tired, not because they are lazy, but because the nervous system is sounding an alarm. Too much change, too fastness, Your subconscious is not against wealth, it is against instability. It does not ask, "Is this good?" It asks, "Is this familiar?" When money arrives faster than identity can adapt, the system destabilizes and the mind restores balance. Often by letting the money go, this is why sudden wealth without inner preparation feels chaotic, and chaos always seeks resolution, usually by returning to the old normal. Wealth that stays feels ordinary, predictable, safe. This is why people who grew up around stability often handle money with ease, not because they are smarter, but because wealth does not shock their nervous system. Their subconscious says, "This belongs here." Agreement is emotional, not logical. You can logically want more money and emotionally reject it. The emotion always wins. This is why repeating statements that trigger inner argument makes things worse. If you say, "I am wealthy," and immediately feel tension, the subconscious learns that wealth equals conflict. It does not accept the statement. It accepts the discomfort. This is why neutral language works. Language that does not provoke resistance. Language that feels believable. For example, instead of saying, "I am rich," say, "I am becoming more supported." In practical ways, the subconscious does not argue with that, it relaxes. And relaxation is permission. Permission allows flow. This is not trickery, it is cooperation. You are not commanding the subconscious, you are aligning with it. Trying to force belief is like trying to push water uphill. It creates effort without movement. Alignment removes effort. When the conscious and subconscious agree, action becomes efficient. Decisions feel clearer. Timing improves. You notice opportunities you would have missed, not because the world changed, but because perception sharpened. This is a critical insight. Money rarely arrives as cash first. It arrives as an idea, a conversation, a moment of clarity. But if the subconscious is tense, those signals are filtered out, ignored or dismissed. When the subconscious feels safe, ideas feel usable. You act on them. That action creates income. This is why wealth is mental, first, physical, later. Another hidden conflict is guilt. Some people associate wealth with taking from others, with unfairness, with loss. If deep down you believe someone must lose for you to gain, your subconscious blocks. Gain to preserve moral identity. The subconscious will always protect who you believe yourself to be. If you believe wealth contradicts goodness, you will choose goodness and reject wealth. This happens quietly through missed chances, undercharging or overgiving. To dissolve this conflict, you must redefine wealth, not as taking, but as circulation, value exchanged, support, moving. When money is seen as flow, not hoarding, the subconscious relaxes. Another conflict is resentment. If you secretly resent people who have more, your subconscious learns something dangerous. Wealth creates separation, so it avoids it. Criticism creates distance. Distance blocks flow. You cannot attract what you emotionally push away. Neutrality removes charge. When you genuinely think good for them, your nervous system settles and settled systems expand. Agreement feels like calm, not excitement, not desperation. Calm, this calm becomes your new baseline and the subconscious adapts. This is why wealthy people often appear unhurried. They do not rush because rushing signals danger. They trust timing, they trust replacement, they trust recovery. And this trust attracts support, not mystically, psychologically. People respond to steadiness. Investors, clients, partners, all sense nervous systems before they hear words. Agreement creates coherence. Coherence creates confidence. Confidence invites opportunity. This is the chain. If this is beginning to make sense, comment the word alignment. In the next part, we will uncover the silent habits and emotional patterns that quietly repel wealth without people realizing. Some of these habits are socially accepted, even praised, but they undermine abundance. Once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Stay with me. Part 3. the hidden habits that quietly repel wealth. Most people believe wealth disappears because of bad luck or poor timing or unfair systems. But far more often, wealth is quietly repelled, not by circumstances but by invisible habits and emotional patterns. These patterns rarely look destructive. In fact, many of them are socially approved, even encouraged. That is what makes them dangerous. One of the most powerful of these patterns is silent judgment, not spoken. Judgment, but internal. The kind you barely notice. You see someone succeed, and a thought passes through your mind. They were lucky. They must have connections. They probably did something questionable. You do not say it out loud, but your subconscious hears it, and it records a message. Wealth equals threat or unfairness or corruption. Your subconscious is literal. It does not understand sarcasm or moral nuance. It only understands association. If wealth is associated with danger, it keeps distance. This is why condemnation pushes money away. You cannot attract what you emotionally reject. Another hidden pattern is false humility. This appears noble, even spiritual, but it quietly undermines abundance. False humility sounds like, I do not need much, I am not interested in money, I only want enough. On the surface, this sounds virtuous, but underneath it often hides discomfort. Discomfort with visibility. Discomfort with responsibility. Discomfort with expansion. The subconscious interprets this as, do not give me more. More would disturb my identity. And so it complies. There is also the habit of chronic comparison. You compare your progress to others, your timeline to theirs, and something happens internally. You contract. Comparison signals scarcity. It tells the subconscious there is not enough. Scarcity thinking narrows perception. Narrow perception misses opportunity. Another subtle habit is rehearsing financial worry. You play mental movies. What if this does not work? What if I lose it? What if things get worse? The subconscious does not hear what if. It hears prepare. So it prepares. For loss, for tension, for limitation, and preparation shapes behavior. You hesitate, you delay. You choose smaller options, not consciously, automatically. Here is an untold psychological truth. Your subconscious learns faster from emotion than from experience. You do not need to fail to believe failure is coming. You only need to rehearse it, repeatedly. This is why worry feels productive but produces nothing. It gives the illusion of control, while training the mind to expect loss. Another overlooked block is resentment towards systems. You resent employers, institutions, markets, even society itself. This resentment feels justified, but resentment creates opposition, and opposition drains energy. When your inner posture is resistant, opportunities feel heavy. When your posture is open, they feel lighter. Wealth flows toward openness. Not because the world is fair, but because openness notices possibilities. Resistance filters them out. There is also the habit of storytelling. You repeat the same financial story, I'm always behind. Money never stays. Something always goes wrong. The subconscious believes repetition, not truth. Stories become identity. Identity becomes reality. Another powerful block is fear of stability. This surprises many people. Some people fear instability. Others fear calm. Calm feels unfamiliar. If your nervous system grew up in chaos, calm feels empty. So the subconscious recreates urgency, problems, pressure, just to feel normal. Wealth often brings calm, and calm can feel unsettling. So wealth is destabilized. This is why some people unconsciously sabotage success, not because they dislike it, but because it feels foreign. Here is an interesting historical observation. Many ancient cultures believed wealth was safest when quiet, not displayed, not discussed, because attention destabilized it. Whether or not this belief is true, the psychology behind it is accurate. When wealth becomes a performance, the nervous system tightens, and tension disrupts flow. True abundance is subtle, grounded, unforced. Another hidden habit is over-explaining. You justify your prices, your needs, your worth. Over-explaining signals Uncertainty. Uncertainty reduces perceived value. Value attracts money. Confidence stabilizes value. The subconscious senses when you trust your own contribution, and when you do not, people respond accordingly. Here is another lesser-known fact. Your subconscious does not distinguish between watching and participating. If you repeatedly consume stories that portray wealth as corrupt, you train aversion. If you consume stories that portray wealth as balanced, you train neutrality. Neutrality is powerful. It removes emotional charge, and what has no charge flows freely. One of the most damaging habits is celebrating struggle. You glorify exhaustion. You bond over hardship. You wear stress as honor. The subconscious learns ease is suspicious. Struggle is safe, and so ease is avoided. Wealth often arrives through ease, not force through clarity, not exhaustion. This does not mean effort disappears, it means effort becomes efficient. Aligned. Here is a simple truth. Your subconscious cannot move toward what it associates with loss. Loss of identity, loss of belonging, loss of safety. These associations must be gently rewritten. Not argued with awareness dissolves patterns, not force. Once you see these habits, you stop feeding them. And when you stop feeding them, they weaken. This is not about perfection, it is about noticing and choosing differently. If this part resonated, comment the word awareness. In the next part, we move into the most receptive state of the subconscious mind, the space where these patterns can be softened naturally, without effort. This is where wealth takes root quietly. Stay with me. Part 4. Where wealth takes root quietly. There is a moment every day when your subconscious becomes most receptive. It is not during effort, it is not during struggle. It is when you stop trying, just before sleep, and just after waking. In these moments, the critical mind loosens, the inner gate opens and ideas pass through without resistance. This is not mystical, it is neurological. During these states, the brain shifts, the analytical guard relaxes, and the subconscious listens. This is why habits form and dissolve most easily here. And this is also where wealth consciousness takes root. Most people underestimate how deeply the subconscious shapes reality. They assume change requires force, but force creates tension, and tension blocks flow. The subconscious prefers rhythm, repetition, simplicity. It responds to what is familiar, not what is dramatic. This is why frantic effort rarely produces lasting wealth, and calm expectancy often does. Your subconscious does not need instructions, it needs atmosphere. An atmosphere of safety, of support, of quiet confidence. When you enter sleep carrying tension, the subconscious rehearses tension. When you enter sleep carrying calm expectancy, it rehearses solutions. This is why people often wake up with sudden clarity. The problem did not change. The mind did. Wealth often begins as a feeling, a subtle sense that things will work out. Not because you know how, but because you trust your capacity to respond. This trust sends a powerful signal. The subconscious stops scanning for threat and begins scanning for opportunity. Here is an interesting fact. Some of the most creative insights in history arrived in moments of rest, not effort. The mind solves problems when pressure is removed. Money is no different. Your best financial ideas rarely arrive when you are worried. They arrive when you feel safe. This is why forcing yourself to think about money often produces anxiety, but gently introducing the feeling of support produces movement. The subconscious is deeply responsive to imagery, simple images, not complex fantasies. For example, imagining yourself feeling supported, calm, grounded, able to handle whatever arises. This teaches the subconscious that abundance is safe. It does not need to know the source, it only needs to know the state. When the state stabilizes, behavior changes naturally. You speak differently, you decide differently, you notice possibilities you once ignored. This is not manifestation, it is perception. Your nervous system stops narrowing focus and begins widening it. This widening allows ideas to surface. Ideas are the true currency. Money follows ideas. Always has. The subconscious is never short of ideas. It filters them, based on safety. When fear dominates, ideas are blocked. When calm dominates, ideas flow. This is why reassurance matters. Not hype, not urgency, but reassurance. Reassurance tells the subconscious, you are not under threat. You have time, you have capacity. This state produces patience. Patience produces clarity. Clarity produces correct action. Correct action produces wealth. This is the real sequence. Not hustle, not exhaustion, not sacrifice. Another hidden truth. When you stop chasing money, you stop broadcasting. Need repels, not because it is wrong, but because it signals instability. Stability attracts support. Investors, clients, partners, all respond to emotional steadiness before logic, before numbers. This is why people with inner calm often receive help, introductions, opportunities, support. It feels effortless, but it is not accidental. Their nervous system communicates reliability. The subconscious also learns through rhythm. A calm, repeated thought before sleep works like a lullaby, not to force belief, but to normalize support. For example, quietly repeating a phrase that implies movement, progress, circulation, not sudden wealth, but steady support. The subconscious relaxes. It does not argue. And what is not argued with is absorbed. This is why small, consistent impressions outperform dramatic affirmations. The subconscious distrusts drama. It trusts consistency. Here is another reassuring truth. You do not need to know how wealth will arrive. You only need to remove resistance. The mind is far more creative than your conscious planning. When resistance dissolves, timing improves. Coincidences increase. People appear. Information arrives. This is not magic, it is alignment. Your inner state matches opportunity. This is why wealth often feels like flow, like circulation, like breath, not like conquest. When circulation is blocked, symptoms appear. When circulation resumes, health returns. Financial health is no different. As you fall asleep in a state of calm expectancy, you teach your subconscious that life supports you, that resources exist, that solutions are available. This teaching compounds night after night, quietly, naturally, without strain. This is how wealth becomes stable, not dramatic, but dependable. If this part gave you a sense of reassurance, comment the word calm. In the final part, we will bring everything together. We will talk about balance, about using wealth wisely, and about creating a life where money supports peace rather than replaces it. Stay with me. Part 5. The balance that allows wealth to stay. There is a final understanding that completes everything we have explored. Without it, wealth feels unstable. With it, wealth becomes natural. That understanding is balance. Money was never meant to be worshipped, and it was never meant to be feared. It is a tool, a symbol, a current. When it is treated as a master, it creates anxiety. When it is treated as something shameful, it disappears. But when it is treated as neutral, it circulates. Many people unconsciously make money their entire focus. They believe once they have enough, everything else will settle. But money was never designed to replace peace, it was designed to support it. Others do the opposite. They reject money to protect a sense of virtue. But rejecting money does not make life simpler, it makes it fragile. Balance is the middle path. Use money, but do not let it define you. Respect it, but do not fear it. When money becomes emotionally neutral, the nervous system relaxes, and relaxed systems are productive. Wealth that stays is not dramatic. It does not announce itself, it supports quietly, it pays bills without stress, it allows choice. Time, space, breathing room. This is the true purpose of wealth, not excess, not comparison, but freedom from unnecessary pressure. Another important truth. There is no virtue in constant lack. Struggle is not a badge of honor. Exhaustion is not proof of worth. If money is not circulating in your life, it is not a moral failure. It is a signal. a signal that something inside is misaligned and alignment can be restored. You are not here to live in permanent anxiety. You are not here to feel constantly behind. Life is designed to expand, and expansion includes material support. This does not mean greed. It means adequacy. It means enough to live with dignity, enough to express yourself, enough to contribute. Another subtle trap to avoid. Do not make money the measure of your value. Your value is intrinsic. Money reflects usefulness, not worth. When money is used wisely, it becomes a force for stability, for generosity, for creativity. Money handled calmly multiplies. Money handled fearfully contracts. This is not punishment, it is feedback. Here is a reassuring fact. You do not need to hold on tightly to keep wealth. Tight grip signals fear. Fear disrupts flow. Wealth stays where it is trusted. When you trust circulation, you release with ease. And what is released with ease returns naturally. This is why hoarding often leads to anxiety and generosity often leads to expansion. Not because of moral reward, but because generosity signals abundance. The subconscious listens. Another important principle. Do not condemn money. Do not speak of it as dirty or corrupt or evil. You cannot attract what you criticize. Money is neutral. It reflects intention, like electricity. It powers what it touches, good or bad. That choice belongs to the user. When you cleanse your attitude toward money, when you allow it to be neutral, you remove resistance. And resistance was always the block. The real riches were never outside you. They were always in your mind. Ideas, insight, creativity. Money follows these, always has. When external systems change, markets fluctuate, currencies shift, the inner source remains. That source is inexhaustible. People who understand this are never truly afraid of loss, because they trust regeneration. They know what was created once can be created again. This is true security, not accumulation, but confidence in creation. Balance also means remembering why wealth matters. It is not to impress, not to compete, not to dominate, but to live fully, to express your abilities, to enjoy beauty, to support others, to move through life without constant tension. Money is part of a balanced life, not the center of it. If you ever feel yourself becoming anxious, obsessive, or fearful about money, return to calm. Calm restores alignment. Alignment restores flow, and flow restores confidence. This entire journey was not about forcing wealth, it was about removing resistance, not about becoming someone new, but about releasing outdated patterns. When the inner state is steady, wealth finds its place. Quietly, reliably, naturally. Take a moment now, notice your breathing, notice your posture, notice the absence of urgency. That is the state where wealth belongs. If this series brought clarity, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who feels constantly under pressure, and comment the word balance, so this work reaches those who need it. Stay grounded, stay calm, and allow wealth to support your life rather than define it.